Ex-NFL GM, Chiefs should trade all-pro cornerback for Tyreek Hill's sidekick. Very funny that they're calling Jaylen Waddle his sidekick. Like, how disrespectful is that? But this is what it goes on to say. The NFL offseason is the prime season for hypotheticals, and former NFL general manager and ESPN analyst Mike Tenenbaum dished out a hypothetical trade involving the Kansas City Chiefs that will leave you scratching your head in disbelief. This thing, by the way, before I get going, this trade scenario lit Twitter on fire. Like, people are calling this guy an idiot. And it's funny because Chief fans are doing it in the McDuffie section, and the Dolphins fans are acting like McDuffie's trash and Waddle's just God's gift to the world. During a segment on ESPN's morning show Get Up, Tenenbaum explained why he believes the Chiefs should trade all-pro corner Trent McDuffie to the Miami Dolphins in exchange for Jaylen Waddle. He goes on and says, "I love this one. Two great young players," Tenenbaum said via a transcription by all Dolphins. Trent McDuffie straight up for Jaylen Waddle, and here's why. If you're Miami, you're probably going to cut Xavier Howard as a cap casualty. So you get Trent McDuffie, who is a great young player. So that's for Miami. Obviously, you still have a great receiver in Tyreek Hill. For KC, you need a number one receiver. Jaylen Waddle really has a chance to be a number one. Steve, at first glance, it feels like this is the most asinine, stupid thing you've ever heard in your life. Like, everybody's like, why is this guy on TV? I can't believe this guy was a GM. But when you actually take yourself out of it and you step back and you're not looking as a fan of either team, and you're looking at both sides from a standpoint of what makes both sides better, it's not as crazy as it sounds on first take, in my opinion. I'll let you give some thoughts on it.
Well, I mean, if you look at it objectively, it slightly makes sense for both teams, right? Like, the guys making it make sense, but right. Does it ultimately? Sometimes you don't have to dig in, right? Like, sometimes your initial reaction is probably like the one that you go with, your gut feeling. I don't like it personally. Like, I think Trent McDuffie has shown that he is a huge piece for this Chiefs team. It very much is dependent on L'Jarius Sneed situation. I mean, if they can't get L'Jarius Sneed back, there's no way you let up McDuffie. If you get L'Jarius Sneed back or you sign him long term, then maybe you play ball. But it's just like, I don't know, man. To me, I feel like McDuffie's more valuable to this team than Waddle would be. We've seen what the receivers offer to the team. Granted, we haven't had anyone to the abilities of Waddle since Tyreek Hill.
Right.
But like, what, like, just my initial reaction is, I don't feel like there's any receiver, barring like elite guys, that would make a big enough difference to constitute losing that piece on defense.
Well, here's my thoughts. And this is going to, I don't know if it rubs people the wrong way or shocks people the wrong way, but I've taken myself out of the whole thing. You know me, I love McDuffie. I called the Chiefs taking McDuffie. I said he was the only guy there.
Right.
But this whole trade, as you mentioned, it all has to be on the premise that you now have to lock L'Jarius Sneed up for 4 or 5 years, right? You've got to give him that big second contract. If you was to be able to do that, you're not going to have money now for a wide receiver one in free agency. You're not getting your T. Higgins. You're not going and getting your Mike Evans. We probably don't even have money to get that now. You probably knock yourself out of the Hollywood Brown scenario at that point. So here's my point. You would have to go to the draft, in which Brett Veach, not the greatest at drafting. He hit with Rashee Rice, but his track record on these guys not that great. And then just, by the way, look at all the bust wide receivers that come out. That is there's 50 of those drafted every season, and 2 or 3 become, somebody. Right. So it's a very small percentage. And yeah, we did it with Rashee Rice, and that's great. But is Rashee Rice a full-on number one? I don't know. He's definitely not the full-on number one, as in he's the kind of guy the Chiefs like and that they'd like to run their offense. They like to run around the Tyreek Hill thing. This is why Mecole Hardman got drafted. This is why Sky Moore got drafted. Jaylen Waddle is him. Jaylen Waddle is that guy. Tyreek Hill even come out and said it right here. Tyreek Hill said, any chatter about the Dolphins trading Jaylen Waddle is ludicrous. My boy Waddle is the future in Miami. He is better than I was at this point in my career, and for people in this fan base to want to trade him is ludicrous. And he's right. Jaylen Waddle at this point in his career is better and more effective than Tyreek Hill. On this team with Patrick Mahomes and the way we run this offense and having Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce, he would eat as a number one. So my thing is, L'Jarius Sneed on a 5-year deal, and a true Jaylen Waddle playmaking number one with the speed of Tyreek Hill that they've been wanting. Or you have McDuffie, and we can't get nothing done, and you got Rashee Rice, and you're back to MVS on a restructured contract. So in my opinion, I love Trent McDuffie, but it does not. If you want to build around Patrick Mahomes and get him weapons, that is a proven number one wide receiver. He was the 5th ranked receiver in all of football last year on a team with Tyreek Hill.
Right. No, I get it. I totally get it. And like I said, it makes sense. I don't know why everybody's going crazy about it.
Yeah, I don't understand just the straight hate on it, like why it's so stupid.
It's because people love Trent McDuffie, right? It's like
yeah, I love Trent McDuffie.
It's a homer thing. It's like they feel like family. You don't want to just let these guys go, right?
Right.
But McDuffie's like, he's a beast, and we know it, and he's going to be really, really good. And like, here's the thing, Mike. It all comes down to what makes sense for the future as far as financially and of course production.
Right.
But like, so that would probably be what would dictate that as far as where Brett Veach would actually go if that was a scenario. But let's look at it. I mean, if you look at McDuffie, he's very, very good. He's got 3 more years on his rookie contract, and then we're going to be in a L'Jarius Sneed situation.
Well, he's got 2, right? And then they can pick up the 5th-year option.
They're going to pick up the 5th-year option.
But at some point, McDuffie's already proven he's that guy.
Right. That's
he's going to hold out. So you're going to have to, by the 4th year, you're going to have to restructure him.
So if you're looking at L'Jarius Sneed, right? Like, this guy has already been on television and everything saying, pay me, pay me, pay me.
Right.
So the chances,
he's wanting money.
Well, he earned it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not mad at the guy.
I'm not dogging it. Yeah.
Like, this is his life. This is his future. This is his career. This is his family's future. Like, yeah, he loves the Chiefs. He's got 2-3 rings with the Chiefs. When did he even start? Was he in 57 or 54?
Well,
I mean,
this is his 4th year, so
I don't think so. Okay, either way, he's got rings. He's got them. Yeah, he probably loves Kansas City. There's always going to be that connection there. But this is his first opportunity to get paid that big fat paycheck. And
right.
In football, we all know that nothing's guaranteed. Like, they could get hurt the next game and never play again. Like, this is time for L'Jarius Sneed to cash in on what he's been able to accomplish in the last 4 or 5 years, right?
Yeah. Sneed, by the way, 4th round, pick number 138 in 2020.
Right. So, I mean, he's going to take the money. Now, if we flip that over to Trent McDuffie, say 3 years from now, or even just 2, it's going to be the same situation.
Right.
Like, because McDuffie's that good. He's as good as Sneed has been at this point in his career. He's better than what Sneed was. So, I mean, it's going to be the same situation again. Now let's look at Waddle. What's he on contract wise? Where is he sitting along? That's what you'd really have to look
Waddle
at. Waddle
right now is in, I want to say, his 4th year.
Right, so he's getting ready to get paid fat money.
Right. So I've looked into this. So this is what I'd actually posted on X. Waddle is in the last year of his rookie deal and could be optioned for a fifth season. His market value as of today is $23 million per year. On the flip, Deebo Samuel just signed a 3-year, $71 million. So I don't think he's a Deebo Samuel probably, but to be honest, he's right there with him. I don't think he's that far off when you look at potential.
You have to think about this wide receiver market. Look what people were paying for Christian Kirk.
So I don't think it's unimaginable to say he asked for 3 years, $65 million, 4 years, 80, 85. But that would lock him up to he was 29, 30 years old. And he's the number 8th ranked wide receiver in the NFL.
Did not want to pay Tyreek Hill, essentially.
Right, but did they learn you didn't learn a lesson. You proved you can go without it, but at the same time, it's been a struggle. It's felt struggly at times.
I think the main thing with the wide receiver room is having a proven guy that has experience and that is reliable. That's what we missed this last season. We did not have that reliable. The closest thing to reliable in the wide receiver room we had outside of a rookie was Justin Watson. And that's kind of sad.
Which is funny because all the way back in training camp, when people were talking about cutting Justin Watson, we were like, he's the reliable guy Patrick Mahomes and Andy like. He's always going to be on this team.
We always called him mid, and we said we wish they would do something different, but we knew what they were going to do. Right. But that's kind of where we're at with the wide receiver position, Mike. I don't think they'll pay anybody that, not even Jaylen Waddle. I think they're going to have to be looking at more of that mid-tier. A lot of people are like, oh, they won't take an older guy. They won't take an older guy. Brett Veach will only go young. And yeah, he's kind of made that a thing in his career with the Chiefs, is he wants the youth and to bring in the youth and develop them. But I think that Juju was the outlier. And the thing about it is Juju was young. He was like 25 at the time. It just felt like he'd been playing for 10 years, right?
Right.
But Juju showed you that if you go get an experienced wide receiver that can catch the ball,
they can be immediately effective.
Exactly. And guess what? They only had to pay him for a 1-year deal, and he walked. Like, they can get these guys. We've talked about a slew of different guys that fall into that range, Mike. Like, even surprise cuts, like we talked about Tyler Lockett. If they cut him, that would be a perfect guy to have for a year or two. Right. People don't like him because of the age, but to me, I feel like back to the whole point of Jaylen Waddle, I feel like you don't have to have that young guy that you pay way too much money for when you can just get a guy that's experienced and can make an impact on 1 year or 2 year contracts.
Right.
I don't.
Tyler Lockett is 31. He will turn 32 in September. So when the season starts next year, he will be 32. Okay. Right. People like Mike Evans. Mike Evans is 30. When the season starts next year in August, he will be 31.
Well, granted, they are a different tier receiver, but at the same time, if you're all about Mike Evans, then why do you care so much about how old Tyler Lockett is?
Well, the funny thing is this. The funny thing is this one, Steve. You're big on Calvin Ridley. Did you know Calvin Ridley's 29, and in December he will turn 30? This season, he's going to turn 30 years old.
Which is crazy because it don't even feel like he's been playing for that long.
1 year. He is 1 year under Mike Evans and 2 years under Tyler Lockett. Right, and everybody is obviously saying, hey, Ridley's young. Let's go get him. Ridley's not that young.
Here's the thing, man. Like, a lot of people want to look at age for everything, right? Like, age is a big factor in certain situations. Like, if you're signing a guy long-term or it's a position that you need to be elite long-term, you don't want to sign a guy that's 31, 32 years old. But if you're just looking for somebody to contribute and make your team better for a short window of time, like a year or 2 years, no one cares if they're 30. Are you still performing at a high level? Yeah.
Isn't Brett Veach feasibly trying to get himself through this rebuilding era, which is going to be 3 to 5 years, and we just finished year 2 winning back-to-back. Isn't he just trying to get a little bit of service out of a few older guys here and there, such as a Donovan Smith, such as you did it last year with Juju. You use that just to get you through in certain situations.
That's why I'm not exactly a fan of that trade scenario myself, just because of that. I feel like with receiver, you already have Rashee Rice in place developing. He's probably going to draft another one. I wouldn't doubt if it's not another second rounder. Like, they love drafting receivers.
Yeah, they like the second round thing.
So there's a big chance they could draft a receiver. So that's another one that can develop. So what do you need to go pay a big bunch of money for a receiver for when you can get the guys like we talked about that can play that Juju Smith-Schuster role where they just have a lot of experience and they're reliable? And they'll come in on a 1 or 2 year deal. And you got your guys developing behind those guys for, say, 1 year, 2 years here. And then ultimately, say 4 years from now, Rashee Rice is the number 1 wide receiver or whoever else you drafted is the number 1 wide receiver. Then you never had to go out and pay a crap ton of money. Like Rashee Rice being homegrown, like unless he bust out huge before his rookie contract's up, you might not have to pay him a ridiculous amount of money. You might restructure beforehand. There's so many different scenarios. I don't like the idea of having to pay a receiver $85 million.
Right. I'm not 1,000% on board. I just thought it was crazy that trade got so demolished, as in Chiefs fans acting like McDuffie is untouchable, and then Dolphins fans acting like Jaylen Waddle is untouchable. And it was weird because it made slightly a bit of sense. And I thought Tannenbaum's just kind of thinking out of the box, but people were roasting this guy. Like, that was the dumbest possible idea you could possibly have.
So outside of Kansas City, no one gives enough respect to our corners. Like, we had the best.
That's true.
We had the best corner duo in the NFL, and it wasn't close. And no one would acknowledge it at all, or no one cared about L'Jarius Sneed or Trent McDuffie up until they were winning the Super Bowl. And then people were like, oh, yeah, these guys are good.
I'll say this. Other teams did it, and that's why I believe the tag trade thing for Sneed is a real possibility, because other teams know what we have in Sneed.
That's the thing about it. Like, the casual football fan or even the, like, pretty decent like football fan people that pay attention, they still don't see things like that. We notice that, and it's like, but those coaches, those scouts, the GMs, like they know.
Right. Okay, man. Well, we got a lot of this to talk about, a lot of other things to talk about. We're getting ready to dive into the draft. We're going to dive into free agency. This is just we just now dipped our little tippy toe in, like Kadarius Toney against the Bills. We're that far into it, so we'll eventually get there. But Steve, that's all we got for them today. Thank you guys for being here on the Patreon. We appreciate you guys. You guys are the real ones.